Cool. Hi everybody, I'm Heinz, aka Diamond Nelson at Underground.com, and I'm really excited to say we're here with Andrew WK.
Thank you for having me.
Always.
Thank you.
Now, before we get started, as everyone knows, Andrew WK is the president of Party Patriot, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. I'm not the only president. You could be the president of partying too. There can be multiple presidents. Or a vice president.
You hang out with me long enough, you realise I'm not in any way associated in the party administration.
Well, wait a minute here. I'm seeing some very party things.
Yeah.
So you must know something about party.
No British party is complete
without party rings. Now, are you aware that I've recently been introduced to these?
No.
So this is the second time in my life now that I'm seeing party rings, because I sampled these as part of a menagerie of classic British party foods.
Right.
And I was really struck by the party rings.
Yeah.
Especially how crunchy the icing is.
Yeah.
It's as solid as icing could get. And it could break a tooth. If you have a soft tooth, it could break your tooth.
Okay.
Well, thank you for these.
No, this is for the whole band.
Well, I'm going to share these, yeah. Thank you very much.
No problem. Okay. Right, so obviously you're promoting You're Not Alone at the moment, which is been out for how long now? Just a few months?
Oh, wow. I think almost exactly 6 weeks.
Yep. How's the response been so far?
Well, I don't know how you'd even gauge that. That's a great question. I would say the response, in terms of the people who have heard it, who have communicated their feelings about having heard it to me, I would say the response has been very good.
Good.
And within that, I'm very struck and moved by the specific language that people have been using to describe their feelings and reactions to the album. Because it's been exactly, almost sometimes to the T, what I was hoping to achieve.
Good.
Feelings of triumph, feelings of overwhelming emotion that go beyond happy or sad and into that mysterious area of almost sort of confusing but revelatory, uplifting excitement.
Like elation.
Yeah, elation is the better word. Yeah, that covers it all. So that I don't take for granted at all, because I think out of anything I've ever released over all these years, there's been a lot of feedback. There's been negative feedback, there's been positive feedback, but I've never gotten that satisfying, specific understanding that what I was trying to get across was gotten across, was received. And that's, I'm still processing that. As we said, it's only been out for a short time.
Yeah.
But that, I think, was a bit of the party gods answering a prayer, that I wanted to connect with people. I was starting to feel a little insane, that this feeling that was so powerful to me, that I was obsessed with, and that I wanted to get from music, that I wanted to make in my music, that was I the only one who wanted to feel this way, who wanted to experience this through music or through life in general, through anything. And the party gods told me, yeah, you're not alone in that, Andrew. And what an amazing way for it to connect to the album itself. I hadn't even really realized that, but I think the title was in a strange, there was a lot of strange subconscious and coincidental synchronicities with a lot of this project. And that one right there was, it never occurred to me that the album title was me saying to myself that I'm not alone in this passion I have for partying.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously, one of the ways you've connected with people directly on the album is the kind of last minute additions, the more spoken word.
Yes.
Piano.
Thank you for being aware of those even being last minute. Well, being on the album, you clearly did your research, because they were, I don't want to say an afterthought, but they came very late in the album making process. As late as they could possibly have been and still make it on to the album.
Yeah, I think you said it happened while they were still mixing or mastering.
Okay. Yeah, so you understand the process.
Yeah.
It could not have been more last minute, but that was good, because then I was able to have had the whole album making experience inside my soul to refer to when talking about what I wanted to say in those brief motivational speeches. Basically what I ended up saying was the stuff I said to myself internally during the album making process, during all the years leading up to the album, all the confusing times I was going through, these were sort of my inner mantras. And again, I hadn't really realized that, but that's what came out when I tried to find something to say. I said what I told myself in my most difficult moments.
Very good. And obviously music is one way that you've reached out to people and really helped pick them up, and you have your own advice column as well, as I believe.
I've done that, yes. I've written one for a Japanese magazine, one for the Village Voice, some other writing for Vice, some other odds and ends. Front magazine here in the UK, I wrote for it for a little bit. Writing has been another means to get this party feeling across.
Yeah.
And I want to use whatever method I can. They all count. They all have different strengths and different weaknesses, I suppose. I don't know that anything's quite as effective as music is, but talking, writing, language, it's quite effective. I mean, it's quite effective at communicating.
Yeah.
Anything that can be said and understood can be understood through words, but certain feelings, I think, can only be understood and felt through music.
And you've been not just in music and not just in writing, but all kinds of media. You've made so many memorable television appearances.
Oh, thank you.
Everything from the Aquatine Hunger Force.
Oh, yes.
Which is, I love that show anyway.
That was an incredible opportunity and privilege to be animated by them. Yeah, I was blown away.
Did they just call you up with the idea, or?
How did that? Well, I had been working with people at Cartoon Network and Adult Swim off and on, thanks to an incredible man there at the time who was named Nick Wiedenfeld. And I think he must have had a hand in helping that come to be. So not only did I get to work with Aquatine Hunger Force, but we got to make a song together about partying, which is like one of my favorite songs we've ever gotten to record. But they wrote it, so to have them write me a song in my style, yeah, that's really mind-blowing stuff. Those are the kinds of dreams that I didn't even dare to dream.
Yeah.
So it would never occur to me to dream up the dream of, I want to work with Aquatine Hunger Force, and I'm going to have them animate me, and I want them to make me a song. You know, but so when things like that just happen on their own, you just bow down and praise to the party gods and thank them for making these miracles happen.
And even earlier on, I saw some appearances you made in Australia. And there was one where you broke your thumb while you were performing.
That was in New Zealand. Oh, yeah, poor man's Australia. Don't tell them I said that. But they're often confused. That was the one and only time. Oh no, I think we went to New Zealand one other time after that.
Right.
But I did unfortunately break a part of my hand. I think, you know, like this part, fractured. And I can actually feel the bump right there. It was painful, but the TV host and production were quite understanding, considering.
Yeah.
My manager, on the other hand, was quite disturbed and frustrated. But then even he later admitted that at least it made for good TV.
Oh yeah.
The odds are people would not change the channel during that, for better or worse.
And another medium you're involved in before was video games, specifically backyard wrestling. You're a playable character in that.
Yes.
And you mentioned being a fan of backyard wrestling.
Well, I'm a fan of all unconventional lifestyle choices, I guess. Let me say that. I have a lot of respect for that type of athleticism. I'm not at all a wrestler, and I wouldn't even know where to begin with that. So I suppose I'm in awe of their courage and daring, but also the physical prowess and the choreography that's involved in that, but also the real pain, you know, and the risk taking. And it's just it's an unusual thing to do with one's life, even if it's just for a short period or if it's for an entire career spanning many years. It encourages me in some of the decisions or the paths I've wound up taking.
Yeah.
Same with athletes, you know, to play a game as your main life purpose or occupation is a bit strange by many people's standards. But I can relate to that because so is this. Being a professional partier is not the most conventional path to go down.
No. So,
and because our music is rather physical, and for me it involves an extreme amount of physical challenge and oftentimes pain and discomfort, I find some solidarity in these different applications of that same energy and same spirit. And really, I just admire wrestling. I just, like many people, I just enjoy the phenomenon itself. I don't know as much about it as a lot of people, but since I've never been a wrestler, the fact that the video game Backyard Wrestling made me into a playable character is probably the closest I'll ever actually get to wrestling.
Did you watch WrestleMania last week?
Well, I read all about it after the fact. I was not able to watch it due to our travel schedule. But it was in New Orleans, and that was pretty epic, and I have to catch up on it. You know, I don't follow most anything too closely. I'm not proud of that. It goes for sports or otherwise. The only thing I follow closely is the Party Gods, to make sure I'm keeping up with the orders that they're giving me and I don't fall behind. If I get too much into anything else, they slap me on the wrist and say, Andrew, you're not allowed to have any other interests other than us, and have our interest in your heart. And so I'm trying to do that.
I assumed it must have been a scheduling thing because it was in New Orleans, like you said. Yeah, it's just like the party capital of America, I believe.
It is. It is one of them.
Who else would you book to perform? So you must have been away.
Yeah, well, I think that might have been during the Japan trip.
There you go. Cool. I think what's great about your music and your message of just positivity and having fun is that it does reach all ages. I can remember when I Get Wet came out, and I come home from school one day, and my dad had bought She Is Beautiful.
Wow.
And he was like, have you heard this? This is the most amazing thing.
That's great.
He's still got the single now.
Oh, wow. Well, I don't take that lightly at all. I mean, how old was he at that time? Can you say?
He probably was about 41, 42.
Right. Well, that's encouraging.
And rock's not really his thing. It's always like ska and soul and all that.
Well, even that's even better. I mean, that's one of our blessings and curses, again, per the will of the Party Gods, is that we don't fit too properly into any genre. Now, I would say rock.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of people that would say, oh, it's not rock enough because it's not using the blues scale enough, and there's so much keyboards, and the lyrical themes and sort of the delivery is, we've had a hard time there. It's not heavy enough to be heavy metal. It's not, keyboard driven enough to be dance or pop or electronic. And so that's been something I've sometimes gotten frustrated with, and especially since I'm a fan of a lot of traditional genres like metal. It's been at times a bit confusing to think, well, what are we doing? What are we? Where are we supposed to go? But then we have this movement to move more freely, and unilaterally, and we can play a festival with a bunch of heavier bands. We can play a festival with a bunch of even lighter bands. We can kind of go wherever we want because our message, our genre really is partying.
Yeah.
And most people, as you said, including older people, younger people with all different tastes, they can all be invited to this party. And they don't have to sacrifice their identity or their musical interests or how they define themselves or don't define themselves to be included in this.
I think for a lot of people, the term partying or something like that implies basically just being drunk and being stupid, but I would assume there's so much more to it than that. So what does partying mean to you?
It can be more than that, it can be less than that. It actually, and it can be, as you said, pure and simple, getting intoxicated. One of the things that it is freedom.
Yeah.
And the freedom to celebrate one's own, it's sort of like it's the freedom to celebrate freedom itself as you want.
Yeah.
Usually with the qualifier that your freedom shouldn't impinge on anyone else's freedom as much as possible. And I think other than that, it's meant to be a free-for-all. So as you probably noticed in the songs, in the lyrics, there's no instructions really for how to party or what to, only to party hard.
Yeah.
There's like adjectives. But in terms of the activity itself, it's really open so that a 4-year-old or a 40-year-old or a 94-year-old could all party the way that is appropriate or exciting to them at that time.
Yeah. You've mentioned just there playing at festivals, and I know you've had mixed reactions, to say the least. There's that infamous footage of you performing in a jump.
Oh yes. Yeah.
And what was incredible to me was that everyone is just throwing shit, and you just kept on going. Did not give a fuck. If anything, you were encouraging it almost.
Well, I wasn't trying to. I was just trying to play.
Yeah.
Try to play through. 99 times out of 100. Try not to even acknowledge what's going on enough to even ignore it. Just play. Just do the best you possibly can. And sometimes that's physically made nearly impossible. Sometimes I've allowed my lower instincts or weaknesses to get the better of me and to stand in the way of me doing what I'm meant to do on stage and perform, and I learned from that. The best thing to try to do in those moments is just focus on playing, focus on the songs, focus on delivering the best show you can, just regardless of what's going on. It's challenging.
Cool. I talked about earlier the television appearances, and again another famous one was you've been the weatherman on Fox News.
Yes.
You've made a few appearances on Fox News over the years.
Yes.
With all the controversy and criticism of Fox News, how do you see your relationship to the station, if any, or the viewpoint of appearing on such a divisive platform?
Well, I mean, I usually go where I'm invited, so that's who invited me that day to do the weather. I mean, I never got to do that before. I couldn't believe they let me in front of the green screen. The weather event occurred because I was fascinated watching the weatherman do it. And then I was asking him questions about how it worked. He said, "Oh, you can come over here, check it out." So I stood in front of the green screen, and he said, "Oh, we have another segment coming up. Why don't you just do it?" I just couldn't believe it. It was so nonchalant. Next thing I knew, I was doing the weather. I had no idea how to do the weather, but I did the best I could. And that was another real sort of dream come true that I didn't even know I had kind of experience. And getting to see the insides of those buildings, like the Fox News building, it was intense. It was an interesting experience. I remember I was in the lobby, and Karl Rove was trying to get in to do a segment, and they didn't know who he was. And he was actually being extremely patient and nice, and then the producer came in and said, "Don't you know this is, I'm so sorry, Mr. Rove, let him in, how dare you not let Mr. Rove in?" And he couldn't have been more calm and low-key, and I sort of related to some of the other people there as that they're performers. And I don't know anything really about politics, but you're trying to find common ground sometimes, and I said, these are really intense people, but then when you see behind the scenes, it's all just sort of, well, much like what we're doing now, just with different set pieces. You know, I think, and also, with the party spirit in mind, I really do try to live by that idea that everyone's invited, and I'm not gonna let things divide me. I'm not gonna let forces divide the party spirit. And I want to talk to all sides. Even the sides you're not supposed to talk to. You know, and even if that's naive to an extent, I think the idealism behind it is pure. And the party wants everyone to get along, and I don't think we should ever give up on that as the ultimate end goal. Even if getting along means tolerating a type of natural dissonance.
That's as good as any statement to close on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For taking the time.
Thank you again.